Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to work through the 7 habits of highly effective individuals worksheet. And we're going to do this worksheet in groups of 2. So let's take a look and see what the worksheet looks like. It's going to look a little something like this. So put down your names and then answer these questions on your own. Okay, and then once you get to number 8, stop, and I'm going to give you the answers to the rest. So do the first 8 on your own, and then I'm going to work with you on the next one. So I'm assuming that you've already done that. So you've got 1 through 8 done, and we're ready to go on. Okay, so problems in life are real. You have problems now, more than likely. You're going to continue to have problems. They're going to just probably get harder, honestly. And so you need a way to deal with these things. So the 7 habits are tools to deal with real life and the problems that come with real life and actually thrive through the problems. And they help you be effective, and they help you accomplish the things that are really important to you. And these things have been around. This book was written like 30 years ago, and it's still popular today. It's still being updated. It's still being changed. It's still being used because it's very effective. It actually is useful and effective, so it's stayed around. All right, so here's the habits. Be proactive. Begin with the end in mind. Put first things first. Think win-win. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Synergize and sharpen the saw. But just reading them and understanding them is not enough. You actually have to kind of work with them. You have to process them, and we're going to do that in class. So hopefully it's going to be helpful for you. It's been good for me personally, so hopefully it's been good for you. Now, what I want you to do with your partner, or if you're by yourself, describe the opposite of each habit. So look at the habit, understand what it means, and write down the opposite. And so we're going to do this on the worksheet. Before we do, let's describe it. We're going to talk about it a little bit, and then I'll help you come up with an opposite for it. All right, so the first 3 goals: be proactive, begin with the end in mind, and put first things first. These are things that you do in private. These are things that build character, and so they're called the private victory. All right, so our first energy should go into building our own character development, which is often not seen by other people. So it's like a tree, right? It's like a fruit tree. So you have to have really good roots growing under there before we can actually produce good fruit. And so that's the idea of the first 3, is that you're producing those roots that make you a solid individual so that you can do good things in public. Okay, so all right, so the first one is to be proactive. And so that's basically taking responsibility for yourself. It's like, yeah, people are going to be mean to you. Your boss is going to say mean things to you. You're going to rush you. Your customers are going to be mean, right? But you have the choice how you're going to respond. You don't have to respond with unkindness, right? You can choose to be kind. You can choose to do the right thing. You're in charge of your moods and choices, and you're able to you can focus on things that you can control and change, and you can let go of things that you have no control over. So I want you to write down what's the opposite of being proactive on the worksheet. All right, habit number 2: begin with the end in mind. So you have to understand, do some work and figure out what's the most important thing to me. What are the most important things? And you're going to set goals to accomplish those things. You're going to have a plan to accomplish those things, right? So begin with the end in mind is like a planning piece. Is like, are you going to sit down and set goals for yourself? Habit 3 is put first things first. Life is going to throw all kinds of things at you, and some of them are going to seem to be very, very urgent, right? But one of your jobs is to put first things first. What's the most important thing? Get those things done first, and then if you have time for these other things, do those as well. But don't neglect the most things that are most important to you. Okay, so from the private victory, we're going to go to the public victory. So the private victory has to come before the public victory. You have to do the hard work of building character before you can do things well out in public. You can't invert that process any more than you can harvest fruit before you plant the tree. This is called the inside-out approach. This is one of the questions we're going to talk about. But the idea is making improvements to your character before your personality. All right, so I'm going to tell you a story from my own life. So it's a little bit embarrassing, but I'll tell it anyways. So there was this kid that would come to my class once a week at most. And when he came in, he'd come in tardy. And when he came in, he would have this goofy look on his face, and he would start talking and interrupting what I was doing. And he wouldn't do any work when he got there. And it even got to the point where he was breaking things. He's making messes. He glued a mouse to the table. And so my thought was well, what's the point of this kid being here? He's not doing any work, and he's being destructive and distracting. And so I didn't like this kid very much. And in fact, I had a bad attitude towards him. And I was thinking in my evil heart, I was thinking of him like this kid is just a piece of garbage. Like, why am I wasting any time on this kid, right? And so that's where I had to come and do this work here, right? Because one of my goals as a teacher is to be kind, to be calm, to have a good classroom management, right? And if I'm being hateful in my heart to a student, how am I going to be kind? How am I going to keep from blowing up, right? I couldn't. And so I ended up having to go and do the private work. I had to think like, so this is kind of where it's goofy, but I had to think to myself like, okay, does this kid have friends that like him? Yes, he does. He has friends that like him. He gets along with kids. His mom loved him. So like this kid's not a piece of crap. He's not a piece of garbage, right? He has people who cared about him and loved him because he's a human being with that deserves respect and has dignity, right? And so I had to do the work to get myself in that right place. And then in the classroom, then it's easier to deal with the bad behavior. Then it's easier to communicate with them, right? So that's what the inside out approach is. You can't force yourself to behave in public if you haven't done the hard work in private. All right, let's talk about those things. All right, habit 4, think win-win. Have courage to stand up for your needs and wants and also be considerate of the needs and wants of others, right? So when you're coming up with solutions, like you don't have to win and somebody lose, you can both win, right? You don't have to lose and they win. Think win-win. All right, so the next one is kind of obvious, but seek first to understand and then to be understood. So diagnose a problem, find out, talk to people before coming up with a solution. Listen with your eyes, ears, heart, and then you can talk after you know all the facts, right? And then the sixth one is synergize. That's the idea of like sometimes working with a group of people that are really different is challenging, right? But when you work with a group that's really different, you're going to come up with a better solution together than apart. So that's the idea of synergize. So in order to do that, you have to value people's differences. And then the last one is renewal. So you have the private victory, public victory, and then the renewal, which is basically take a vacation, go to a workshop on how to be better at your job, get a good night's sleep, do things that help you to recuperate and be fresh. Otherwise, you're going to kill yourself. All right. Um, all right. So hopefully take some time and write your answers down. Okay, so here is the book answers. To the opposite of number 1 is to be reactive instead of proactive. Blame everybody else for your problems. Take no responsibility for yourself, your education, your future. Number 2 is begin with no end in mind. Be a victim. Don't plan. Avoid setting goals. You won't follow through anyway. Don't worry about tomorrow. Just do whatever comes around, right? Just let life's going to throw stuff at you. Just do what life says. Don't take any control. And then this one is put first things last. So procrastinate, things that are important, put off, like spend time watching TV, playing video games, lying around. Don't worry about the things that are important to you. All right. The opposite of this is think win lose, or think lose win, or think lose lose. Um, just view life as a competition where somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. All right. This one is basically you start talking, make sure people hear what you say, come up with a solution before you've heard all the stuff, and then when other people want to talk, pretend to listen, but don't. Number 6, don't cooperate. Assume that other people are wrong or stupid. They don't think the same way you do. Think that like I'm going to do this better on my own than working with other people. And then 7 is burn yourself out. Just work yourself to death. Never take a break. All right, that's it.